global wheat prices may surge on. India bans wheat exports with immediate effect. 50 Celsius heat wave scorches Pakistan.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It's May 16th, Monday, and here are your top stories. Global wheat price has spiked about 40% this year as Russia's invasion squeezed exports from Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is expected to cut the country's wheat production by 35% yearly to 21.5 million tons. Now, as India has banned exports after severe heat waves have damaged crops, it is expected that global supplies of wheat could shrink even more. In the market, Chicago wheat futures rose to about $11.8 per bushel in May, the highest in 9 weeks and not far from 14-year high of $12.5 hit in March.
The United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization said on May 11th, international wheat prices edged upwards in April, albeit marginally, gaining 0.2%. The continued blockade of ports in Ukraine and concern over the 2022 crop condition in the U.S. kept prices elevated. But the rising price has been tempered by increased exports from India, higher than expected Russian exports, and global demands that have fallen slightly due to high prices. As India banned its export of wheat, the growing global demand would drive up the prices even more.
Due to a rise in food security risk, partly because of the war in Ukraine, coupled with domestic prices soaring to record highs when scorching heat forced production cuts, India has banned wheat exports with immediate effect. Media reported India's own wheat harvest has suffered a record-breaking heat wave that is stunting production. And India's vast stocks of wheat have also been strained by the distribution of free grain during the COVID-19 pandemic to some 800 million people. These were threatening the food security of India.
Wheat prices in India have risen to record high, with part of the market hitting $320 per ton, well above the government's minimum support price of $260. A senior government official said, "It was not wheat alone. The rise in overall prices raised concern about inflation, and that's why the government had banned wheat exports." Media reported, rising food and energy prices pushed India's annual retail inflation rate to 7.79%, near an 8-year high in April.
On May 13th, the city of Jacobabad in Sindh province, Pakistan, hit 50 degrees Celsius. The World Meteorological Organization has warned the heat wave smothered Pakistan and India since April is consistent with climate change. According to a 2017 study, the climate change that led to the deadly summer heat waves could strike regions of India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. The Persian Gulf and eastern China will also become the region of the worst heat waves on the planet.
A study done in 2017 in the journal Science Advances by Professor Al-Fatih Al-Tahir of MIT projected, before the end of the century, the number of extreme heat days projected for the Persian Gulf region would be the worst, followed by South Asia, while eastern China ranked third. But northern India, Bangladesh, and southern Pakistan are likely to be the areas hardest hit, where 1.5 billion people are dependent on subsistence farming that requires long hours of hard labor out in the open under the sun.
Media reported after India banned wheat export on May 13th, a tremendous reverberation can be felt throughout the world immediately. On May 14th, agricultural ministers from the G7 countries condemned India's move to ban wheat exports. They decided to call on India to assume its responsibility as a G20 member. They said that such measures make the world's crisis worse. Wall Street Journal reported India's move is very likely to exacerbate global strains. Soaring food prices are triggering shortages and protests across the developing world.
Wall Street Journal indicated rising prices helped stoke the violent unrest that led to the resignation of Sri Lanka's prime minister and have motivated more peaceful protests in the Middle East. Bloomberg reported, such restrictions risk setting off a cascade effect and driving up prices for everyone. Since the invasion of Ukraine, at least 20 countries have imposed restrictions on food exports. Reuters news report, soaring bread prices have triggered protests in Iran, in which some shops were set on fire.
Sky News reported on May 14th, Ukraine's intelligence chief said the war is going so well that it will reach a turning point by mid-August and be over by the end of the year. Coincidentally, Newsweek reported on May 12th, a military expert said Russia's military can only last about 90 more days in Ukraine before its forces and equipment become too depleted to continue. The Russian army has consumed a considerable part of its arsenal and is now facing difficulties in replenishing military equipment and vehicles.
The editor-in-chief of the military news outlet, SOFREP, Sean Spunt, said, due to the supply chain interruptions and severe economic sanctions, he thinks the Russians would not be able to go much further than 90 days. In the Sky News report, Ukraine's intelligence chief Major General Kirillno Budanov said he can confirm that Russia suffered heavy losses in manpower and armor. He said, I'm optimistic, and most of the active combat action will have finished by the end of this year.
The Daily Star reported on May 13th in a leaked recording, one of Russia's top oligarchs has claimed that Putin is very ill with blood cancer. The New York Post reported on May 12th, the mysterious Telegram account General SVR said, as Putin's health reportedly declines, replacements have been put on alert to standing for him when he undergoes surgery, and the time of the surgery has already been determined, with a date still being set. But all medical personnel will be on duty starting from tonight.
General SVR said on May 12th, preparations have been made in advance with short speeches by the president, a video of Putin's participation in meetings, etc. All in all, should be enough to last for at least 10 days. If there is a need to show the president in action, one of his 2 backup doubles will be used to imitate. They are even prepared to show face in a public appearance if necessary. Everything is basically ready. The time of the operation will take place at night and will begin between 1 and 2 a.m.
Sky News reported on May 13th, the chief of Ukraine intelligence said the defeat of Russia's invasion would lead to the removal of Russia's leader and the country's disintegration. When Sky News asked, does that mean a coup is underway? He responded, yes. The Telegram account General SVR also warned on May 12th, every public figure that Russia relies on to make decisions must think 10 times before executing the orders from the Russian leadership. Change will come faster than you think.
The General SVR account said, fulfillment of any criminal order will make you a criminal, and refusal or sabotage to comply with a criminal order will make you a hero. Ukraine's intelligence chief Budanov told the Daily Star, the defeat of Russia will eventually lead to the change of leadership of the Russian Federation. This process has already been launched, and they are moving into that way, and it is impossible to stop it. He claimed Mr. Putin is in a very bad psychological and physical condition, and he is very sick.
The U.S. Department of Defense announced on May 13th, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin spoke with Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu for the first time since February 18th. Secretary Austin urged an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine and emphasized the importance of maintaining lines of communication. CNN reports on May 13th, the U.S. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley is also expected to reach out to his Russian counterpart to see if it's possible to schedule a call. The two have not spoken since February 11th.
CNN reported, back on March 1st, the U.S. and Russia established a deconfliction line, similar to the deconfliction mechanism the U.S. and Russia have over Syria, to avoid any miscalculation or misunderstanding that might lead to an unintentional and dangerous escalation. But there was no communication until now. CNN said, the call lasted about an hour, and was at the request of Austin. A few days ago, Putin canceled a flyover show of Russia's Doomsday plane in the Victory Day parade.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. Let's make every day a fun day. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.